All right.
blank.
R and D of it.
Oh, that's because Jennifer redacted it.
Oh,
All right, so it is 6 o'clock, so we will call our working session to order. We have a very extensive agenda under new business. So we'll skip it and go straight to old business. Item A, the mobile home park. Jennifer handed out a letter to everyone before we started here. It looks a little wonky at the top because it's been redacted. This is just a copy of a letter that I drafted and had mailed out to the residents of the current mobile home park. So all of the current residents got a copy of this, each individually addressed. Just sort of letting them know what's going on and reminding them that nothing's been decided, and we're going to take their input into consideration. And there were some comments made by one resident on the online post about how, basically the sense I got from reading them was that they didn't feel like they were being heard. I wanted to make sure that we were expressing and committing to hearing all of the residents, especially including those who are going to be most affected. Those are the people who live there. So that's why this went out. I have also been talking with Jennifer about sending out a similar letter to any of the property owners who abut the proposed sites that we're talking about here. Those haven't been sent yet because Jennifer's estimating that's about 160 or so letters.
How far out are you considering?
Jennifer, I think you said you could measure within about 350 feet.
The 350 feet is the measurement we use for all of the notices for variances, conditional uses, rezones.
So does 350 feet doesn't get you to Heatherwood?
No.
Because half of the people that were here the other night were Heatherwood residents.
Yep.
Or close, I mean, they seem very concerned, and to me, there's a, I'd hate to say how far it is, it's probably a quarter mile,
Yeah.
and there's a woods in between.
Yeah, I don't know what.
So I don't know why their underwear's all in their mind, but anyhow. And there are some very influential people out there that could probably afford lawyers and all this kind of stuff that, you know,
I've heard they
this
are
may be what we're up against.
discussing getting hired an attorney.
I think everyone is pretty reactionary right now.
Yes,
And I think if
fluid
we,
is the word I wanted.
I think if we, you know, I don't think it needs to come to that. They may think differently, but I guess we'll see.
So at the end of the day, this is going to be a struggle, and it's not going to be easy,
Yeah.
no matter what we do.
Well, and I think, you know, certainly in what I tried to express last week is none of this was done in secret, but we hadn't publicized it yet either because we're waiting on the answers to all of the questions that everybody wants answers to.
I got some of those answers.
Yeah, so I mean, we can talk about those things yet tonight,
Sure.
but had we been able to get those answers first and then send out a very, you know, a detailed notice and information and have that discussion, I don't think that we would have been in the predicament that we're in, but Facebook exists, so here we are.
so I also think that there's a misconception that, and somehow with this going on, that we're going to subsidize the current owner.
Right, and we have no interest in subsidizing the
Yeah,
owner.
that we're in no way looking at subsidizing or, you know, providing financial assistance to the current owner. That's not, we're nowhere near that.
And that's the rumors that take off.
Yeah.
Well, I believe we've been a little bit misled because he said he talked to everybody, and I personally talked to two people that had no idea. And the owner had not phoned them, talked to them, sent a letter, nothing.
And that was why I decided to send these letters out, was because I was left with the same impression that they had been spoken to, that it had been discussed.
And I was at that meeting where he basically told everybody to talk to everybody.
And so was Chuck and Ron and Tark.
Yeah.
So,
So if we got a trust issue, this isn't good just starting out.
right.
The thing is too is, so I had met with Paul and I met with some people, you know, who were concerned, and they've certainly been contacting me and all the rest of us, I'm sure, with their concerns. And I told them, when I spoke to them on Tuesday, that I wasn't, you know, I didn't have the information, I didn't have the data. But I do now, and the concerns that they have, while I understand them, and I'm not seeing that represented in any numbers that I have, in any data that I have, honestly. So I'm not sure where that leaves us, but I think there will be some who might be reassured to know that. You know, obviously it's kind of a day at a time situation right now, but the fears they have are not represented by any evidence that I'm seeing.
Yeah, and you know, we ran into that issue when, I mean, it comes up with downtown often, where downtown's unsafe or downtown is whatever, and there's a perception issue.
Yes.
A lot of, where it looks worse than it is. And, you know, I've seen some of the data that you're talking about, and I would agree that they don't often reflect what the concerns are based on the perception that we all walk into.
Well, this is very similar to our society house that nobody wanted to be a neighbor. As far as I know, that's going fairly smoothly.
That might be a discussion for another time.
What I did about a week ago was mention to a couple of people that if you want to meet up and just have an impromptu talk, I'd be available, because I didn't think they had enough time, or they had the right idea when they came here before the last council meeting. So I met up with Cody Flanders, Candace Damhoff, her parents, and Brian Haynes. And they're right on Morningside. And their biggest concern was that the property values are going to plummet because of the relocating of the trailer courts. And the other thing is that there's a stigma that follows the trailer court, that it's going to put things on a downward slope instead of an upward slope like where they're looking at. Now, the Bankston says that they have 34 acres on the other side that they would like to sell to get developed at some time. However, they said they're going to have a hard time selling that land if it's enveloped by mobile homes. That's why they are so far against this, is because what they were basically saying is, if you're looking for the future of Painesville, get it to where you're going to have these upper scale homes, you know, where people can afford to build it. They're again raising the property value and the tax revenue coming in. But putting the mobile home park behind John Deere is one where it's just going to drag the prices down and probably push away any sort of growth. Now, we're looking down a long ways down the road here. But to have kind of like a situation where we're talking about now behind John Deere, that sounds like a good idea for now. But going down the road 10, 15, 20 years when none of us are probably around here, what's the foresight going to look like? Okay, we're going to have to move that trailer court again, or what's going to happen? So they had a couple of suggestions. One was, if the city owns the land, sell the lots, make their money, and then get tax revenue, make their money. That was one suggestion. Another one was, does the township have any room? It's like, I don't know. We'll have to ask the township.
Well, the township can't provide water and sewer.
Exactly.
Period.
Plus, the township does have an ordinance against.
Yeah, I figured that much. The other one was, I mentioned that there was 4 locations, but the other 2 I had not seen until just a little bit ago. We may want to reconsider what's going to happen with that, and perhaps tone it down instead of having, 30 or 40 sites, maybe just the ones that want to move there with a possible expansion down the road. That way, the land behind John Deere can either go towards single-family homes, twin homes, because Damhouse told us, and Bankston's told us, that they sold the land to whomever put those twin homes up, right on the south side of 34, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
Okay, right behind D&D.
yep.
And they are interested in selling that land to a developer to put more of those in there, which sounds like a good idea, but they said they can't see doing that if there's a trailer court across the road. Now, I'm just the messenger here. I'm just relaying what the the 6, 7 people that I talked to, what they had to say, and they were passionate. To the point, like Neil said here, that if they had to get an attorney to stop this, they would probably pull the money together to do it. So, again, this is just messages that I've gotten from the residents.
If you look at the sites in this page here,
Yep.
this is why we kind of picked the site we did,
Yeah.
because the others are pretty much, the city's got no extra money.
No, I know
This
that.
has to be the current trailer park owner or a new trailer park owner, but the city's not going to own the trailer park.
Right.
Right.
So the one last,
I'll say that very well.
the one last option that was presented was, so Spanier Welding wants to add on, therefore moving the trailer court, therefore moving it to somewhere else where there's going to be some sort of injury to other parties. One of the options somebody brought up was actually Brian Haynes, is if Spanier wants to build, why not go across the street where the city's already got land for sale?
That's not, okay, that's not the way to look at it, because we weren't thinking of selling just, or moving it just because Spanier wants to expand.
Okay,
In the park, because the location is not ideal. They're on the other side of the track, which, is not
Right.
the right location. And we could use the land for other reasons. Then afterwards, we approached the companies in the area and said, hey, if this land were
Sure.
vacant, would you be interested?
Okay.
And then they said yes.
I think something that's been
that's where misunderstanding came in,
Yeah.
sorry, Sean.
That's okay. Something that I feel has gotten lost in all of the discussion over the last 2 weeks on this issue is we are talking about 35 plus people who currently live there. We're not talking about making room for business. We're not talking about that. We're talking about people in our community, taxpayers who spend money in our local community, because a lot of them might not have cars to get outside of town to spend money at Walmart, so they shop here at Teal's for their groceries. We're talking about people. And I guess I'm not going to be scared away by the threat of a lawyer coming in if I'm doing the right thing for someone in our community.
Right.
And if we're doing the right thing, then bring on the lawyer, but it's not going to stop me from doing what's right for the people who live here.
That area has developed so much industrial, it's not residential anymore.
Yes.
It's not, yeah.
And it's not a very nice area for families and people living in.
That was the main driver, yeah.
They need to,
And Megan, you were there, you heard some of the passion that was behind what they were.
I did, and as I told them, I wasn't going to be committed to anything until I've done my research, and I have. And I know, like I said, right now, I think it's a very reactionary time. People are just reacting. It's been a hard couple of years for everybody. Nobody wants to just take a breath and step back. But I don't think that anyone wants a council who is going to be swayed away from doing what they think is right because of who's throwing the biggest threat at us. I don't.
no.
And I don't think they want that either. I think that they're concerned. But I did note their concerns and I did research those. As far as the housing values go, I think that was one of their biggest concerns. So I spoke with a local source who's very knowledgeable on the housing values. He did feel that a traditional mobile home court would probably bring surrounding home values down, but I know that it had been discussed to go more into modular homes. And he agreed that it would not have the same effect so I think going into it, and I spoke with that person today who is interested in modular homes, and she is very passionate about speaking with everyone, going forward, making sure it's a very well kept up place. She said she's not going to put her name on anything that's not good. And the thing with waiting as far as development goes, every single day that goes by is the highest that lumber prices have ever been. So we can sit around and we can wait for a development down the road, but that is optimistically at least 5 years down the road. And I think what we're heading into right now is a time where there's a significant number of people who are going to work from home permanently. They're talking about like 1 in 4 Americans by 2021, 36 million people by 2025, as well as there were fewer people that moved during COVID, but the ones who did drastically moved away from cities in numbers they haven't seen in over 20 years. So I think that we are looking at an influx of people that could want to move here, and we have a lot to offer, but the thing that we don't is housing. So I'm looking at this as a good thing, and I don't want to see it sized, like you said, just for this number of people who want to move. I want to see it into a, every day there's someone asking on Facebook, where's a house to rent in Painesville? And everyone says nowhere, because there isn't. So I don't see this as anything but a positive, honestly, if we can go into it in a way that's going to protect property values, and it's not, and that can be done, but it's going to be a conversation that we need to have, and I think everyone's going to need to take a breath and take a step back before that happens.
What about the crime? This wasn't-
Yes, so that was another one that was mentioned, and that seems to be mentioned quite a bit. So I got to talk to 4 out of the 5 full-time police officers. I couldn't track down that 5th one, but I will just to make sure. No, he's not the one. It seems to be this like pervasive belief that the trailer park has a high amount of crime, and they just don't. It's just not represented anywhere in the numbers that I'm seeing. So, or that it's dangerous or that it's not. So I spoke with the 4 officers, and then I have the numbers. So in 2020, the Painesville Police Department went on 5,370 calls. Calls is a loose, when they come and check us on us at the liquor store, that's a call. If they lock up the public bathrooms, that's a call. Right, Paul? Okay.
Correct.
So thank you. But of those over 5,000 calls, 78 were to the mobile home park. And when you break that down, most of those were medical assistance, welfare checks, a stray animal collar, to only roughly a dozen were what someone might consider a traditional, like a distress call, with like a type of, possible criminal element. So, and when I spoke to one of the police officers, he said that mental or behavioral health played a large part of most of those dozen incidents, and when I asked him if mental and behavioral health seemed exacerbated everywhere as a side effect of the pandemic, he said yes. So I don't know if that's higher than normal or not. Other comments from officers were things like, I haven't been on a call to the park in 3 or 4 months. The park is no worse than most areas in Painesville and better than some. And I asked specifically about drugs because I knew at one of the last police reports that was reported as an issue. The officer I was speaking with told me that in the past few years, to the best of his knowledge, he has not had any arrests, busts, whatever, related to the park. And he said when it comes to drugs, the park is not part of the conversation. And this is not something that is unique to Painesville. There was a 2014 study on how physical environments contribute to crime, and trailer park sites showed the lowest rate of violent crime calls for service compared to similar non-manufactured dwellings in similar income areas. So they think that the design of the housing layout itself allows neighbors to have a direct view of nearby homes, and so it creates a sense of safety. So that concern is not, it's just, I understand that that's the stigma. I understand that that's a pervasive belief, but it is not borne out by any data that I've seen, and I don't think it's anything that we need to be concerned about. And as far as the social issues of, I guess that's what you could call them, people being concerned about things being run down, or, the last thing that we are going to want to do if we want that to not be the case is to shove them somewhere else and isolate them. Study after study is showing me that when it is integrated into the community in a mixed income area, then those are not nearly as pervasive, those issues. So I understand their concerns and I listen to their concerns, but I told them I was going to research it, and I did, and I think that we need to go forward carefully because, they live there and they have a right to be concerned and have a right to but I just want to be very clear that the biggest fears that they had are not borne out by any data. I don't think it's anything that they need to worry about.
Well, I know the biggest question that I've always had is what resources are available to help the current residents move if we were to do something. And Chuck, the last time I was a part of any meeting, we were trying to get an answer to that question from Deed. And I don't know if you've been able to get that since I was on that committee.
We did have a considerable discussion with people from what's called the Impact Fund. I think it was the last meeting we had. And that sounded like a potential program that the residents that are in need of assistance to get into a new unit or a nicer, more up-to-date unit, it might be an option for them. And, you know, so I think that was the whole focus of the last real meeting, you know, because that seemed to be the biggest issue, was trying to make something affordable from the residents' perspective.
I would like to, us maybe to check out some choices too, if there are other places, because there just seems to be this notion that we're just gonna scoop this up and plop it down on someone's doorstep, or that we're gonna make something and then just put them all there. And that's, you know, I mean, they should have a choice about where they go to live. So I think it would be good if we could make sure there are a few options. I know there are some apartments and things that we could check out too and help them, you know, let them know that there are options as to where they can go.
I just have a what if. The current owner said, well, I got buyers for my land, I'm gonna sell and close the park.
Yep.
We as a city, where are we involved?
We're not.
At that point, would we wanna do something, or, I mean, this is back to where, like you said, we don't want somebody just throwing out on the street.
Right.
Neither do I.
I think that from a legal standpoint, we wouldn't have an obligation to do it, but I also think we wouldn't be doing our jobs if we didn't try in a situation like that.
I mean,
You know, like if the apartments on 55 burned down and all of those residents were then homeless, I knocked on the wood.
Negates it.
You know, I think we'd all want to pool all of the resources we could, try and figure out where those residents would go. And I guess I don't see, you
and
know,
that's kind of, isn't this what Flanders was talking about? There's money to, if a park would close, there's money to help residents?
From what I saw, he was talking about the relocation fund that we're already aware of. I think where the confusion came in was it said up to a certain amount of money. And yeah, 7 or 10 or something. And I think that they thought that that was for sure the amount that everyone was going to get, whereas I believe the minimum is 2,000.
What we heard is 2.
And that's what the assumption that the city was working off of. So we were talking about the same thing. It was just confusion as to where it was taking, what the number was.
And it's just a fee for them to help them relocate, that's it, which means.
Right, moving and finding a new place
Yeah.
and paying maybe 1 month's rent.
Yeah,
So it doesn't go
it
far.
doesn't go far.
No. Well, I mean, that's, well, who knows where this is gonna end up?
I have a question. We have 4 option spots here, but we only have the cost summary on 2. Is the other ones just way out of skyrocket, or do we just not do it, or?
The northwest option, correction, that would be just the north option. I think that one, there's no utilities out there, and yes, we would have to add a lift station utility.
Okay.
The extension out there would be extremely high. And the west one, you know, when I spoke to the property owner there, I don't know if he would sell or not, plus the utilities would be very high there also.
What about we own the property right next to it, where the funeral home's at. Is that an option? Because we already have sewer and water out there and stuff.
I don't know, I suppose it could be an option, I think we'd have to rezone it.
didn't we discuss that way back when this first came up? And was it too small?
It would take the majority of that development.
Yeah.
You know, how the funeral home would feel about that.
Mobile home park right next to it.
And those were developed for commercial.
Yes, I know that.
Say, at one time, didn't we talk about, some land that Mater had?
That is the west option.
And knowing them, they don't want to sell it up it.
Well, I think they're gonna sell, but the first thing he said is you're gonna also be buying a new home. And
I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, the west just.
They're talking about selling their house anyway, it's too big for them now.
Well, they'll sell it.
Yeah.
It's gonna be at a place.
Yeah.
And we have no infrastructure in there either.
No, zero.
Yeah.
That's why we kind of came down to the option that we did, because the water's already there. Is sewer in or not?
No,
No.
but it was just a short extension of, coming off of Sunrise Avenue.
And no lift station needed, right?
Correct.
And I think some of the people that Paul and I spoke with had discussed a certain property, Paul, but in EDAP today, we discussed that that's going to be developed at some point, so that's not an option either. The one that they were talking about, so.
Yep.
I understand, everybody's concerns. I understand, people feel left out of the conversation, even though, as we've tried to explain, it was so early on. But I think no matter what, no matter where, people are going to be, there's going to be some pushback. And I get it, but there are people, the people who live in the current mobile home matter as much as anybody else. So we need to look at what's best for the city, and they are part of it. And I think that because, as I said, the biggest concerns that they had are not borne out in any data that I've been able to find, and I've taken it apart every single possible way in the past week. I mean,
And nobody wants it in their backyard.
Nobody wants it in their backyard.
nobody wants to
And that's
live in their
human-
backyard.
that's human nature.
That's human nature, but.
It is, but I just, I think that the things that they're worried about are not necessarily going to come to pass, and
Well, that's
so
true.
I think that we can,
But when you look at the Willgo, and I know it costs more and everything, but that's what's already there, are modulars, and so it kind of would fit in that neighborhood. Yeah, that's almost all that's out there, and it kind of fits in that neighborhood.
That owner of that one up at Willgo, or the Northwest option, they did contact me and just said, I've been getting these calls now, and he just reminded me, yes, it is for sale,
Yes.
if we want to look at it.
I just think one thing is somewhat interesting. Nobody wants it in their backyard, except the east option is kind of in our backyard, Neil. So,
Yeah, I guess I'm as close to it as Brian Haynes.
yeah.
I can't.
And I don't really feel it's gonna.
He's got a
affect the value of
cemetery
my
in his
place.
backyard. Between that and that.
Or bothered me one bit.
I don't think that it will either, and I think that,
And I mean, South Street, is that more than your 300 and some?
50 feet?
I believe it is.
I've got, Morningside, Maywood,
Yep.
Meadowview Court, Sunrise, County Road 34, Sunrise, Morningside.
But not South Street itself.
Lake Avenue,
Yeah.
nobody on South Street.
No.
Nope, Coronas, First Lake, County Road 34, Sunrise, Morningside, Meadowview Court.
I think what I'm,
One person on South Street. I'm
I
sorry.
mean, I can't throw a baseball like I once did, but if you throw a baseball as hard as you could, I guess that would, where that lands would be your neighbor.
One person on South Street, they own 2 lots. Been in the community forever, Windross.
I mean, ultimately, I think the understanding or the pushback is, again, it comes back to the optics of what it currently looks like. And that's what the concern is. But the more it's discussed, I think the more people listen to what's going on, the more there's an understanding that this might not be the world's worst idea. So,
We did kind of committed to a cement pad, right? We were talking the last time with the existing owner.
Yeah.
It'd be a cement pad and a storage building, I believe, in the back, and a trailer.
Tornado shelter.
It's almost like any street project we have, and people get all upset, and then when they see the plans and they see it's been through this so many times. And once they see the actual design and
That
diagrams,
information is key.
they just
Yep.
change their mind. But the other thing that riled them up is there was a realtor that told them their property values go down 20%.
$50,000.
Yeah,
That was nice of him.
yeah. He just went and told them.
Well, he wants their house today so he can sell it and make that. That's how they operate, huh? Don't let me get going on real.
Yes.
Just a side note, the lots that they have laid out, the actually size of the lots, actually, some of them are actually bigger than some of the lots we already have residential homes on. There's a few in town that have less space than these lots that are diagrammed out.
Yeah.
I believe that.
Something that was discussed way back when this first came up, and I think sort of the general consensus was we weren't interested, was if the city operated this. And I guess I'm starting to reconsider that a little bit, only because if the city were to maintain it, we get the quality control. And I'm also a bit worried about the fact that the current owner told us he talked to all of the residents and apparently didn't do it. And you're right, Neil, I think there's a trust issue there.
I agree.
Well, I don't think we'd want him to own it anyway.
There is another party that's somewhat interested, correct?
Yes.
And I think maybe we should pursue that or
Explore.
Because I think if you get a local person that owns it and is vested in it, and as I think you'll, and if we put some parameters, some like covenants, not necessarily covenants, where guidelines, it's not going to turn into a trash place.
Well, yeah, and that's the benefit of the city developing the land, is that when it's sold or turned over, whatever it is, to the new owner, the covenants go with the land.
Right.
So that,
I prefer a private owner.
okay.
I really do. A city, we're in so deep on so many things,
Yeah, I'm not advocating for it, it's just something that's been,
especially if we have somebody that's interested, that I believe will do a good job. This might be the angle we need to pursue.
So I wasn't aware before this week of what a big investment trailer parks are for people out of states, and I didn't know like how heavily Warren Buffett was invested in them or anybody else, but it is. I feel the same. I think that's the biggest variable for me, and I don't want to go forward with the current owner. I mean, even if he is, and I've heard that, he picks up his phone and he pays the water bill, but even if he were the best landlord in the world, that's still tens of thousands of dollars every year that are leaving our community. And we don't have somebody on site who can deal with issues as they crop up. Or have, the people can speak to if they see an issue and I think, again, I don't know this guy at all, but it seems like there's a lot of somewhat predatory practices by out-of-state investors as far as homes go. So
It'd be hard to beat local ownership.
I think that's a big variable. I would be hesitant to move forward with any of them if that weren't taken care of. So I don't know where we are with that or what needs to happen with that, but.
well, this is our working session, so we're not voting on anything tonight, but it sounds to me like there's a consensus that we at least want to continue having this conversation.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So then the other thing that, I brought up, Jennifer passed around the letters that were sent to the park residents. I think that some sort of information should be distributed to nearby property owners as well, to at least the 2 or all 4 of the sites. But that's a considerable expense. I didn't feel comfortable just saying, hey, Jennifer, go ahead and mail these out, and, it's gonna cost, it's not much, it's like $100 to do it, but it's still there.
I think we could accomplish a lot of that just by putting an article in the paper.
Yep.
Put it in the editor.
Call Mike and do something,
Yeah.
and on the website, that sort of thing.
My column, now that I have time to write it again, does focus on this issue this week, so hopefully that'll get out there to some people.
He's trying to sell newspapers, and that'll sell his newspapers.
Yeah,
I like this letter to the
it's nice. It's
current
good.
homeowners,
Yeah, thanks.
A good one.
because it tells them that we care, and we want a little bit more. You know, what did he tell us, 18 of the 20 were interested?
Yeah, I think so.
And we have no idea now where that number came from.
Right.
There might only be 3.
You're right.
I mean, and if that's what it is, well, then we need to try to figure things out. But we gotta have truthful information to proceed to.
And I think the number should be a hard number, ones where, if there were to become up some sort of agreement where a signature or something like that might be required, where they would have to commit to it. Instead of saying, yeah, I want to do this, and then have half of them pull out. And then it's like, oh, well, let's get something a little bit more concrete.
I mean, I do feel there's probably people that don't have more than what they're currently paying for lot rent, period.
We'll stop, yeah.
If that's what it is, they aren't in the ballpark for paying another $300-400 for a house payment every month.
Yeah, it'll about double it.
Yeah, yep.
And that's on the low end, because the newer mobile homes, double wides, you're looking at between $600 and $900 a month just for the payment on that, not the lot rent. So we're kind of getting backed up with affordable housing. What do you want to really make it be affordable?
I think the next step ought to be hearing from all of the residents of the park.
Yeah.
And I'd kind of like to do that out there at the park.
I agree.
Because then if, somebody raises a concern, well, this is what's working really well, or this isn't working, we're there, we can see it, we're present. So I'm certainly willing to go out there. Ron and Chuck, if the two of you are willing to join me, I'd like to see the two of you there as well. And anyone else who wants to, we can talk about it. I think probably the middle of May. And then the weather will be nice enough and we can get out there and
If we get too many, don't you have to declare it a meeting, or how?
we might have to, just to be on the safe side, declare it as a
I
special
think
meeting.
maybe we should, and
Yep.
whoever wants to come and answer questions.
I don't think we want to calendar it today. Maybe we just put it on our next council agenda
Yeah.
for setting a date.
Yeah.
No?
For the May 10th meeting,
Is that, that would be our next,
or do you want it on the 26th?
I know it's afternoon. Can you get it on the time?
This might be a rather contentious meeting. When you get the residents of the park versus ones over where the proposed park is gonna go, if they both show up here, it's gonna be quite active, a meeting, so.
That's why I would rather maybe we don't all,
I don't
for the
think-
next
I
step
don't think
of
they'd show up at the park.
just meeting with the people.
I don't think they'd show up at the park either.
No, so they're not gonna come to that meeting.
But I mean, if we have it in here, if we have to call it.
No, we wouldn't have it in here. It still could be a special even though it's over there.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
if we had it here, we would have it.
Maybe also based on the grant, Chuck, we could probably put together a schedule and bring it back as I think it's July, isn't it, Chuck, when the grant comes out, it has to be completed in September. So based off of that, when certain decisions are gonna have to be made.
Yeah, that would be really good.
That'd be good.
Yeah, and maybe some estimated receipts of grant funding, things like that, estimated costs. All right, so anything else on that? Okay, Jennifer, thank you for accepting your deadline.
I think it's gonna be a balance, but I think that we can do it. And there's some people that we're not gonna be able to make everybody happy, which is,
That's part of government.
it is. I didn't know how hard it was for me personally until this week, but it is. But that's okay, that's not our job, so we'll just have to do the best we can.
Yep.
Okay.
We got 20 minutes for the next part.
Oh, yeah, we do typically like to keep these to an hour. So,
Yes, Bill.
liquor store. Bill, fast.
I was the one who asked to be on the agenda for that.
And I was gonna too, so good.
Okay, so let's talk about the liquor store, and Paul and Gene can rock, paper, scissors for who's gonna talk first.
Okay, I just wanted to bring this up just to get it on a discussion level. Is this with the liquor store signing the lease for the next year and a half? This gives us time to explore the possibility of getting ownership of their own building in a spot where the sales can increase drastically. And with those sales increasing drastically, meaning that the city can get more of an income by utilizing the one thing that is going to pull money into the city instead of tapping the taxpayers. So it's just my thought that somewhere along the way, Bill, I don't know if you can help me out with this, but just off the top of your head, you know, you really, how many monthly transactions or weekly transactions can you go off of that happen at the store right now? Just top of your head.
Last year, we did over 75,000 transactions
75 in that location.
in that location.
So if you had a more visible location with curb appeal where people are gonna go, oh,
And
we
not,
stop here.
and not think we're Teals,
Yeah, right. So,
which is good or bad.
I would ask if we could somewhere along the way look for a feasibility study to see what kind of traffic is going into your store now versus a better location. And my thought was between the Quick Trip and the McDonald's, because number one, the city already owns the land. If you're gonna ever build a liquor store, you gotta buy land. You gotta buy it in a spot where it's gonna be easily accessible. Okay, if you get a building put in there and, hopefully have the income generate the payments on it, because my thought is, there's just some people in this area, in this town that don't drink. So why put it on their taxes if they don't do that? So that would be my thought, is that somewhere along the way, we can get the revenue to go through. It would increase the profits, and it would also increase the visibility, especially on traffic going by. So that's just kind of my thought. Something to work through. And if we can somehow get some numbers to get drawn up.
Well, the amount of rent we pay now will make a payment.
Yeah, right.
And pretty much, I would think.
Well, you know, when we were looking at the shop code, and Belinda gave me these numbers again today,
Okay.
and I think Chuck, you just kind of threw some numbers out there. To build a building right now would be 1.6 million,
Yeah.
which is pretty high. That's the scary part.
Would it be single purpose, or can you make a dual purpose and rent it out to something else?
Depending on the space that's on that lot, how we could set it in there.
So you can get income from another.
Like an add-on. They say a liquor store and a meat market go great together.
Yeah. So I did some research on this too. And I have a picture, high-end Morris store.
Beautiful store,
Okay.
beautiful store.
Beautiful store, 10,000 square feet. Then I look at the Bagley store, it looks smaller, more compact, but it's a lot cheaper.
It's
But
also,
again,
so,
this picture that I'm looking at looks like better curb appeal, which will pull people in. And you say you're doing 2 million a year in business?
we did last for 2 million.
We're making money, Paul.
Yeah.
Right, I understand that.
You're talking taxpayer, the liquor is helping the taxpayer.
Yeah, we don't use any taxpayer money for the liquor store.
Oh, no, that's exactly what I'm looking at.
Yeah. we
No
don't.
taxpayer money,
We
no.
don't, no.
No.
And we wouldn't.
And, no. Yeah, that way you could easier get, hopefully get some money, enough income generated where it could get a new fire truck if needed, instead of having to rely on local government aid. Because we know how the cycle of politics go. Sometimes you have good years for local government aid, sometimes not so good. We probably do better than anyone, Linda. So instead of counting on that, how about having something more concrete, where we could look at something that's gonna actually bring in some revenue for the city and probably put us a little bit better on the map. And this is something I just wanted to bring up as a discussion so we could just kind of kick it around.
Okay.
Well, we kind of did this last year when we looked at Shopko, we looked at building a new one, and that's kind of where we are because at the end of the day, and looking at this.
And we could have paid for a building by now if we had built one instead of renting for 10 years.
Right.
And how much longer do we want to keep renting
Well,
and giving Roger Teal our money?
no, but 10 years at 2,000 a month, I think your math is off. I
Well,
didn't have my calculator, but 1.6 million takes.
well, yeah, but it wasn't, 10 years ago, it
$2,000.
wasn't 1.6 million either.
No,
And this was supposed to be a short-term thing until we decided where we were gonna go. It's never a great idea to rent and rent and rent when we have the capability of either buying Shopko and renovating it or putting up a new building.
but the thing with rent, you don't have the expenses of roofing, painting, plowing and mowing and.
You just pay for it all now.
Rental in the first place was to get away from all the, when we owned the liquor store, you had all the upkeep, the building,
It fell
maintenance.
apart, yeah,
You know, that all adds up too, but that,
but it's also too small.
It is.
Bill, how many square feet do you have right now?
2,881.
So if we quadruple this, it'd be.
We're doing $764 a square foot.
Which is,
And they tell you after 600, you should be looking. Actually, they're saying 5 now. But you gotta pay for it. You know, you still gotta pay for it. That's,
At some point in time too, if this thing never gets, moves on, this will be paid for. Instead of patting, Teal's wallet. So at some time, and then once that happens, it frees the money up and the debt service is paid down, and it's up to the city council to decide where the rest of that money goes.
is it worth starting an ad hoc committee? That we could,
or can't just the liquor board do it?
we could,
I mean, we already have a committee that deals with that.
but like to get, we gotta get Chuck involved.
Yeah,
Just because, I talked to Chris at Bagley, we talked on some, we got legislative things going on, and waiting for answers on right now. And we talked the other day, the reason they built like they did was because of the cost of the cement compared to the cost of wood.
Yeah.
That's why that looks so different. And he told me to build it bigger because he's already run out of space. And knowing the cost of lumber now compared to the cost of cement, I don't know if that's gone up the same, Chuck. He wasn't for sure.
Yeah, I'm not positive.
Yeah.
Lumber's gone up.
It's jumped, but not like lumber, not
Right.
to the same extent.
Yeah, we've been blessed with a very good business, And Chuck came out, we all know the struggle of the size of the store, we're doing the best we can, we make what we can do.
With very little visibility, I mean, if you didn't live in town, you wouldn't know that there's a liquor store.
Right.
And that's the part that, with better visibility will also,
And what makes,
in a larger facility, automatically, because you have more variety, and your sales automatically go up.
and they drive by a lot of stores to get here. That's, the lake people in our community is very supportive. They drive by a lot of stores to come to us. So,
Well, how many square feet were we talking at 1.6 million last year?
50,
Probably 2 million now.
what's that? Like, we were looking at 6,000 square feet if we did Shopko, like that.
So, well, but we had a building cost to build new of 1.6 million.
Right.
How many square feet was that?
6,000.
6,000?
Yeah.
Would you have to bring in more staff?
No. We're running with 2 a shift now. Summertime, I'd like to run with 3, one up the middle on a Saturday or Friday, because that's but I don't know if we're going to get that. Right now, people are just not applying. No, I think we can run with what we got.
Okay, so even if we more than doubled our size, we could stick with the same staffing?
Eventually, we're going to have to get an assistant style, a person that when I'm gone, can make those decisions, you know, instead of, or a full-time staff. But right now, we've been able to do it with the 32 hours, and it's working well.
You can't do that.
No vacations.
So, you know, there's some upsides to that as well. But right now, I'm happy with,
What was the cost estimate on Shopko? I know that's probably,
2.2 million. When it's all said and done.
yeah. The liquor store part was, I mean, you divide it up, it was
Yeah.
pretty,
That building right there was 1.25 million, but that's with geothermal heating.
well, and that was a couple of years ago,
That
too.
was just a couple years ago, yeah.
you know, Izanti's building a new store right now, and a friend of mine runs that one. And he's out of commission for maybe a month or two.
Sure.
I'd like to reach out to him and see what his cost, but Minji's building a new one right now as well. Chuck, are you involved in any of those? You know, but those are also bigger communities, but, you know, Izanti only does 2.5 million. That's what they were doing.
Well, they're a suburb of Cambridge, but
Yeah.
they're right on 65, and anyone going up north is gonna go buy them, amongst a bunch of other liquor stores. Now, if you were to put a liquor store in that area, where's the nearest liquor store gonna be in between the next spots? Richmond and probably New London.
New London's downtown, they have a new ownership. Their new manager came from Westside out of Wilmer, and he's good.
Okay,
So they're cleaning their act up. Brinkies is Brinkies. You know, Gary's been a great competitor for many years.
sure.
And those are our two, our biggest competitors is probably Gary.
People are not gonna travel an extra 3 miles to save $1, or 6 miles of
I don't
time.
know.
Talk to Bill about that.
I don't know. They go,
We have locals that go to St. Cloud.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
we have a lot in,
It's just, some people drive 50 miles to save $10 on a four-wheeler.
well, and liquor's a touchy subject because people don't want people to see them there. You know, it's just the way it is.
Right.
And we get some other community people to come here for the same reason.
Sure.
Well, with the city of Sartell, what they were able to do is put a liquor tax on it. And it's mostly, where theirs is at, is the residents, but if you were to have it in a tourist area, where that, they're going to be paying their state, or their federal or state, if they have a local one, where they pay off of a $50 purchase, an extra 50 cents or something like that, and just have that go towards the building fund until it's paid for. That would, I think that would probably be one of the least painless routes. However, to get this done through a municipal liquor store, I believe the legislature has to sign off on this, but
Yep.
I don't think they've ever denied that.
Belinda and I reached out to our auditors and then to our association, and she's probably better at talking about than I am.
Well, what they told me, I reached out to our senior manager auditor. He contacted one of the auditors within Schlesinger that has a lot of knowledge in this. And, you know, there's two different avenues. You've got your local option sales tax, which requires legislative approval. That would not probably fly because you have to provide economic benefit to residents, businesses, and visitors. I don't think we could prove that by building a liquor store, we're doing that. The second choice is the municipal liquor tax as a special local tax. It would be similar to what the lodging tax they're looking at doing in Painesville and Painesville Township, that's similar. My understanding from the contacts I have is not, that neither one of them say that you have to have legislative approval on that
Okay.
special tax.
All right.
So I'm not 100% sure. They both suggested that if you get that far that you are interested, contact your attorney.
Right, okay.
We got our lobbyist involved with,
Sure.
and today he was unavailable, he's on the floor today.
Right.
My question is, so sales have gone up every year for how long?
Ever since Bill became the manager.
Exactly, which is how long again?
12 years.
And last year obviously was a record breaker for reasons we didn't anticipate, but barring another pandemic, are we going to plateau if we don't expand? Is that going to be an issue?
I thought we did in 2019, I was nervous we were. The customer we had, and this is just one little sidebar, was upset because we didn't have their product, and I should have gone by the other competitor. That's what you run into, because we do the best we can to provide, we get requests, all kinds of requests, some off-the-wall stuff we try and get for people. And you just can't match all of them, you know, that's,
You're not gonna
that,
allow this space you have.
Neither is anybody else.
yeah. And that's the hard part, because I want to compete with, we're not going to be cheaper than St. Cloud. We're not going to give it away like Cash-wise, like Sam's Club. They have a different style, you know, we're here for the residents. That's why we do what we do.
How big is Brinkies? How many square feet do you have?
He's about 6,000 to 7,000.
Compared to what it was at one time.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I remember the old one. Yeah, that was
Some fish house is bigger than that.
like our old liquor store.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then we get to the question of the legislators letting grocery stores sell beer.
Right.
And if that happens, then you got your new liquor store and you're gonna get stuck.
You know,
That's my concern.
mine as well, because it's my job. And we've been fighting this battle, MMBA, MLBA.
And it doesn't go away.
Since 1964. And I go down to the legislature all by myself every year. And that's where, if it's gonna be, it needs to be a community effort. They need to hear from everybody. And I enjoy going, I hated it, but now I enjoy going down there because they hate to see us. You know, but we've got great relationships with Senator Howe and Dave Booth and Driscoll as well. We've met with him this year. We've got great relationships. Right now, I haven't heard yet, but it was the omnibus bill, something was out there that liquor everywhere is going to get attacked on somewhere today. We fight this all the time, but right now, we don't think it's going to go that far. It's a battle every year, but we got cities doing the same thing.
Even if it did go to grocery stores, they won't have whole 6,000 square feet of liquor. They're gonna just concentrate on the top 10 sellers, and that's what they're gonna carry.
But that would hurt our bottom line.
Well, it could hurt it, but we do other things that's what competition's all about. You figure out other ways to bring it back up again.
If things keep going the way it is, all these breweries that want everything, that they want to be able to sell their product out of their back door, all these little breweries, if they continue to go the way they're going and ask for liquor everywhere, they're going to put themselves out of business because the big guys are going to continue to get bigger, and they're going to die off, because it's just like the Minnesota wineries have slowed down. There used to be millions of, not millions, but quite a few of them. Now you're seeing the bigger ones eat the little ones up, and that's what's going to happen if this continues. And that's been our fight at legislature. Right now, we still think we have the upside, because the cities have a lot to say.
And historically, what the legislature in Minnesota especially, is that they're the only state in the union right now that sells 3-2 beer.
Right.
Okay, and
They're not going to stop making it.
and I believe we were one of the last states to have Sunday liquor sales. And that just passed through just recently.
Right.
And especially, Prohibition started on Granite Falls, so, by a legislator. So anyways, that's, they've been real stingy with that.
And what did they say would happen if Sunday sales, why they got it to pass? Because sales are going to increase, tax dollars are going to increase, it's going to save the state of Minnesota.
Yeah.
That's been false.
And it hasn't? I didn't think it would.
Nope. All it did is take Saturday sales to Sunday like was predicted.
Like everybody knew.
But you don't hear about that.
Right.
Well, I think the idea of taking this to the liquor board and having you all come back to us with a recommendation on something.
Can we somehow get Chuck involved, have a meeting, and then kind of...
No,
No.
I don't care.
Chuck can come to a liquor board meeting.
I mean, to study it, you need what it's gonna bottom line.
Yep.
Well, that's where I think we need to get somebody that's involved with economic statistics, where they can kind of do a foreseeable projection.
We're predicting, in our business, it ebb and flows, right?
Yeah.
When the no smoking came out years ago, it killed the bars.
Yep.
Our business, the liquor business picked up, and then it started going back the other way.
Mm-hmm.
And now we peaked, and now we think we're gonna ride the storm for a little while before people are all out going 100% back to
You think with the 10,000 square foot building, you could hit for $1 million a year?
Boy, that'd be tough. I think
Good
that's-
to have goals.
Yes.
Yeah, have goals.
Okay, but you know what, that's numbers and a thought that, you know, something that we're still
Just-
working with.
Hutchinson does 5.5 million.
Okay, sure.
Sauk Rapids did about 2.7, 2.8 million. Litchfield's 2.2 million.
Okay,
Sauk Rapids competing with all
Big dogs.
but they're competing too.
They're
They
competing.
got a lot of competing.
Tom does a good job.
What about Mora? You have any idea what they do?
New manager, helping tremendously. No, somehow 3 million sticks in my head. They're in a great corner up there, though.
Yeah, they are.
Great corner.
A lot of traffic.
You know,
Well, that's where I'm thinking location.
Malacca does great.
Yeah.
Princeton does great.
Yep.
I'm thinking Laura's got a new manager, they're doing great. New London's got a new manager, they're doing great.
What do you say? Can I apply for that city hall job?
Bill, you haven't heard any more from Theo? Our last meeting, he was gonna try to get us more space.
When we talked 3 weeks ago, he's working on it. And it all depends on,
Because, I mean, that's our short-term solution.
right now,
Probably
everybody,
least expensive. I mean, I guess finance met last week, and the city, if I'm looking at this right, 2027, before we're gonna have some, we can't do a whole lot of projects between now and 2027.
We could, we just shouldn't.
But those debt, the bonds payments that we were talking about, they're all hit the general fund. This would not hit the general fund, this would have to be all liquor fund.
This is not any taxpayer money.
No. And this could
If we go
actually.
1.6 million, they have to be bonded.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, but it would be like through the liquor store, it wouldn't be a bond payment from the general fund.
But wouldn't the city have to back it?
Pardon me?
Wouldn't the city have to back it with general fund dollars?
It can all come out of the general, it should all come out of the liquor fund.
But if the liquor store, I mean, if the city,
Yeah.
if the state says you can't operate a municipal liquor store anymore, those bonds aren't just gonna go away. So I think that ultimately would have to be backed by our general dollars.
and there's a bill out there that says, let's cancel municipal liquor, and we'll just give the cities that money, but how long is that gonna last?
Right.
A short term.
Very short.
Wow.
So if the liquor store could get a new building and still pay the same amount of rent, it just, that same amount, you don't have to worry about the rent going up, maybe some expenses along the way, but, you know, I don't see where, you know, if we watch the money that's spent, that it can't happen.
And some city didn't go through a bond, they went through a credit union. And I can't tell you which one, I don't remember, I'd have to do some more research on that.
Has there been any thought into community funding? Because what I've seen in the past, and I mean, stop me if you think it's a dumb idea, but I've seen it work in other areas, not in the liquor store, but where you seek to raise money from the community, and what you do is you're selling them a tier or something, like, you know, give us $5,000 and you're gonna get 20% off for the next X number of years, plus, you know, a bunch of other benefits. Give us $1,000, you're gonna get 10% off for the year, plus, but you tier it like that, that way you get the community to contribute, and it'll be probably your best customers, contribute up front. What you're doing is you're shrinking your margin for these people for a number of years, but you're getting your funding up front. And I've seen it work quite a bit.
I don't know, you know, usually if I offer you a price, I have to offer Sean a price, Gina the same price. I don't know if you could do it that way. I would have to check with
You can
that.
offer a
That would have to
discount.
be a legal thing because we are government.
Okay,
Yeah, but you know what, I know the people that ask.
okay.
You know, one thing I think everyone should know is you pay, what, $1,828 a month now.
Right.
And I did a quick calculation, just so you're aware. And I actually used the 1.78 million for constructing a new liquor store, which includes the $100,000 land. So if you use the land out by McDonald's, that wouldn't be the case. But that annual debt fund that they looked at was a 15-year payment at 4%, which is $160,000 a year payment. That breaks down to $13,341 a month. So that's considerably higher than his rent payment. Yeah, I understand revenue is going to go up and everything else, but I want to make sure everybody understood that.
Can you go longer on those, or is that the max? And is 4% the interest rate for city money?
This was last year's information.
Okay.
I mean, we gave you a whole bunch more to your capital improvement fund last year.
So stop my.
And that was actually not putting any money toward it also.
Yeah, and because we wouldn't borrow the whole
Yeah.
amount.
That's true.
All right,
Will the city be paying for the property out between Quick Trip and McDonald's?
No.
I didn't think so.
No, that's why I said the 100,000 would come off because we already own the land.
Right.
we would have an added expense though, of having to pay the property taxes on that then. So that would increase as well.
Sure.
Am I exempt from property tax?
You are not.
You are not,
You have to pay the
because
property.
you make money, you can't be exempt.
That's where that money goes, that you just gave me.
Just like Ron's irrigation land has to pay property taxes.
So, all right, well, let's have the liquor board look at it and figure it out from there.
Okay, thank you.
You get one free use of chunk and.
Let me code that invoice.
Yeah. All right, thanks everyone.